What if the greatest engineering achievements in human history weren't built by the civilizations we credit them to? The official story tells us ancient people used simple tools, copper chisels, and wooden ramps, primitive methods for primitive times. But the evidence tells a different story. Structures that modern engineers admit they couldn't replicate, precision that surpasses our current technology, materials transported across impossible distances, construction techniques that remain unexplained. For decades, evidence has been dismissed. Researchers who questioned the official timeline were marginalized. Discoveries that contradicted accepted history were buried in academic journals nobody reads. The pattern is undeniable. When ancient structures demonstrate impossible precision, the explanation is always the same: slave labor, decades of work, trial and error. But the mathematics don't support it. The logistics fall apart under scrutiny, and the physical evidence contradicts the accepted narrative. Today, we're examining 10 ancient structures that challenge everything mainstream archaeology claims about our ancestors' capabilities. These aren't theories. These are documented facts. Measurements taken by engineers. Analysis conducted by material scientists. Evidence that's been systematically ignored because it doesn't fit the established timeline. Fair warning, what you're about to hear contradicts what's taught in every history textbook. But the stones don't lie. The precision speaks for itself, and the implications are staggering. 10 structures, 10 impossibilities, 10 cases where the official explanation crumbles when you examine the evidence. The question isn't whether ancient builders possessed advanced knowledge. The evidence proves they did. The question is how, and why that question makes so many people uncomfortable. Number 1 takes us to Egypt, but not the Egypt you learned about in school. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as the most analyzed structure in human history. Millions of tourists visit every year. Thousands of researchers have studied it. Yet the official explanation for how it was built remains unchanged since the 1800s. Here's what we know for certain. 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2 and 70 tons, stacked to a height of 480 feet, completed in approximately 20 years. Do the math. That's 330 blocks per day, 1 block every 2 minutes, working 12 hours a day for 20 years straight. No mistakes, no delays, no breaks. And that's just moving the stones into position. Now consider the precision. The base covers 13 acres, all 4 sides aligned to true north within 1/15 of a degree. The margin of error across the entire base is less than 1 inch. Modern construction projects can't achieve that accuracy with laser-guided equipment. The stones fit together so perfectly that you can't slide a razor blade between them. No mortar was used, just stone on stone. Precision ground to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. Engineers from major construction firms have examined the pyramid. Their conclusion is always the same. We couldn't build it today. Not with our current technology. Not in 20 years. Probably not in 50. But the official story never changes. Copper tools, wooden ramps, decades of slave labor. Except there's a problem with that explanation. Copper can't cut granite. It's not hard enough. Experiments have proven this repeatedly. You can pound on granite with copper tools for hours. You'll barely scratch the surface. The ramp theory doesn't work either. To reach the upper levels, the ramp would need to be over a mile long. It would contain more material than the pyramid itself. And there's no evidence any such ramp ever existed. No copper tools were found at the site. No remains of massive ramps. No debris field from construction. Just precision stonework that modern engineers can't explain. Here's what makes this truly strange. The Egyptian government prohibits independent testing of the pyramid stones. Researchers who request samples are denied. Analysis that contradicts the official timeline is suppressed. Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University, attempted to date the structure using geological methods. His university funding was cut. His requests for access were denied. When evidence threatens the established narrative, it disappears. The Great Pyramid isn't just ancient. It's a testament to knowledge we don't possess, and that knowledge has been deliberately excluded from mainstream archaeology. Because once you admit ancient Egyptians had technology beyond copper and ramps, everything else falls apart. Number 2 brings us to Peru, to stones that shouldn't be possible. Sacsayhuaman sits above the city of Cusco, a fortress made of stones so massive they defy explanation. The largest stone weighs over 300 tons. It's fitted perfectly against its neighbors. No gaps, no mortar, just precision engineering. But here's the problem. These aren't rectangular blocks. They're irregular polygons. Some have 12 angles. Others have more. Each one custom fitted to its neighbors. Imagine the engineering required. You'd need to shape stone A to fit perfectly against stone B. But stone B also has to fit stone C. And stone C connects to stones D and E. Every angle must be perfect. Every surface precisely ground. One miscalculation and the entire section fails. Modern stonemasons say it's impossible. Even with computer-aided design and diamond-tipped tools. The Inca, according to official history, had bronze tools, maybe some copper, no wheels, no pulleys, no written mathematical system. Yet they created joinery that surpasses anything we can produce today. The official explanation claims they used smaller stones to pound the bigger ones into shape. Trial and error over many years. Engineers who've examined the site reject this theory unanimously. The precision is too exact, the angles too perfect, the surface finishing too smooth. Dr. Jean-Pierre Protzen from UC Berkeley spent years studying Inca stonework. He attempted to replicate their techniques using the tools they supposedly had. He couldn't do it, not even close. His conclusion: the Inca possessed knowledge of stoneworking that we don't understand. But here's where it gets interesting. When the Spanish conquered Peru in the 1500s, they asked the Inca how the stones were fitted. The Inca said they didn't build Sacsayhuaman. They said it was already there, built by people who came before, people who knew how to soften stone. The Spanish dismissed this as primitive mythology. Modern researchers aren't so sure. Chemical analysis of the stone surfaces reveals traces of organic compounds, plant-based acids that don't occur naturally in granite. Some researchers theorize the builders used a chemical process to temporarily soften the stone, mold it like clay, then let it harden again. This would explain the precision, the irregular shapes, the perfect fitting. But mainstream archaeology refuses to consider it because it implies knowledge of advanced chemistry, knowledge that shouldn't exist in the ancient world. The stones remain. The precision is undeniable, but the explanation is forbidden. Number 3 takes us beneath the desert, to chambers that predate known civilization. The Serapeum of Saqqara in Egypt contains 24 granite boxes, each carved from single pieces of Aswan granite. They weigh 70 tons each. They're perfectly rectangular. The interior corners are exact 90-degree angles. Here's the impossible part. The insides are hollow, carved out with precision that requires measuring equipment we invented in the 20th century. Modern machinists have examined these boxes. They measured the tolerances with laser instruments. The flatness of the surfaces varies by less than 2/10,000ths of an inch. The corners are square within 2 seconds of arc. That's precision ground machine work. That's not something you achieve with copper chisels and sand. Christopher Dunn, a master machinist with over 40 years' experience, wrote an entire book about these boxes. His conclusion shattered the accepted narrative. These objects were created with advanced machine tools, lathes or mills, capable of cutting granite to aerospace-grade tolerances. The Egyptian authorities claimed these boxes were sarcophagi, burial containers for sacred bulls. There's just one problem with that explanation. No mummies were ever found inside. No hieroglyphics mark the surfaces. No decorations of any kind. Just raw, precision-machined granite. And the boxes are installed in underground chambers, carved from solid bedrock. The tunnels leading to them are too narrow to fit the boxes through. This means the boxes were installed before the tunnels were completed. The entire complex was planned and executed as a single engineering project. That level of planning suggests purpose beyond burial. Engineers have proposed these boxes served as resonance chambers, acoustic devices, or containers for something we don't understand. But mainstream Egyptology refuses to deviate from the sarcophagus theory, even though the evidence contradicts it. Researchers who question the official story face professional consequences. Dr. Zahi Hawass, former Minister of Antiquities, has banned several researchers from Egyptian sites for suggesting the boxes were machined. Documentary crews who filmed the precision measurements had their footage confiscated. The evidence is clear, but the discussion is forbidden, because acknowledging these boxes were machined means acknowledging advanced technology existed thousands of years before it should have. And that threatens the entire timeline of human civilization. The boxes remain in the Serapeum, silent testimony to knowledge that's been erased from history. Number 4 brings us to Lebanon, to stones that modern cranes can't lift. The Baalbek complex contains the largest cut stones ever moved by humans. They're called the trilithon. 3 stones, each weighing approximately 800 tons. They're positioned 20 feet above ground level, fitted perfectly into a temple wall. Modern construction doesn't move stones this size. The largest crane in the world maxes out at 20,000 tons, but it needs to be assembled on site. It needs stable ground. It needs careful planning. The ancient builders had none of this. Yet they quarried these stones from a site half a mile away, transported them uphill, lifted them 20 feet, and set them in place with precision joinery. The official explanation claims they used wooden rollers and thousands of workers. Engineers call this absurd. 800 tons on wooden rollers would crush the wood instantly. The ground would need to be perfectly level. Any slope would make the stones impossible to control. And lifting them? The pulley systems required don't appear in the archaeological record for another 1,000 years. But wait, it gets stranger. In the quarry, there's another stone, larger than the trilithon. It's called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. It weighs approximately 1,000 tons. It's still partially attached to the bedrock. Whoever quarried it had plans to move it. They cut it free on 3 sides. They were preparing to transport a stone that weighs more than a modern destroyer. Why start cutting a stone you can't move? Unless you could move it. In 2014, German archaeologists discovered an even larger stone beneath the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. This one weighs approximately 1,600 tons. That's larger than any stone moved in modern construction, ever. The implications are staggering. These weren't random projects. This was systematic mega-engineering. Whoever built Baalbek was moving stones that we can't move with our current technology. The Roman Empire claimed credit for Baalbek. Roman coins and inscriptions are found throughout the site. But Roman engineering doesn't explain the trilithon. The stones were already in place when the Romans arrived. Even Roman historians admitted this. They called the foundation stones ancient beyond memory. So who built it? The official answer is the Phoenicians. But there's no evidence the Phoenicians possessed this capability. No other Phoenician sites display mega-engineering on this scale. The only honest answer is, we don't know. But mainstream archaeology can't say that. So they credit the Romans and ignore the impossible stones beneath the Roman temple. The trilithon remains, immovable testimony to engineering capabilities that exceed our own. Number 5 takes us to the jungle, to a city that appeared overnight. Pumapunku, in Bolivia, contains stone blocks fitted with precision that shouldn't exist in the ancient world. The stones are andesite and diorite, both harder than granite, both impossible to shape with bronze tools. Yet the surfaces are perfectly flat, the corners are exact, and the blocks feature complex joinery, H-shaped grooves, recessed panels, interlocking systems that resemble modern, modular construction. Engineers who examine Pumapunku describe the stonework as machined. The precision matches industrial manufacturing standards. The blocks fit together so perfectly that water can't penetrate the seams. No mortar was used. This is aerospace-grade precision, in stones that weigh up to 100 tons. The official dating places Pumapunku at around 600 AD. The culture that built it, the Tiwanaku, supposedly had bronze tools and llamas for transport. The mathematics don't work. Bronze can't cut diorite. Llamas can't move 100-ton blocks. And primitive tools can't create perfectly flat surfaces measured in thousandths of an inch. But here's what makes Pumapunku truly bizarre. The stones show evidence of being assembled, then disassembled, then scattered across the site. It looks like a construction project that was abandoned mid-build. Blocks are strewn randomly. Some are upside down, others are partially buried. Yet the precision of the stonework is perfect. What could cause an advanced building project to be suddenly abandoned? Some researchers point to evidence of catastrophic flooding, water damage on stones that sit at 13,000 feet elevation. Geological surveys confirm massive flooding occurred in the region. But the dating is controversial. Mainstream science dates the flood to the end of the last ice age, around 11,000 BC. If Pumapunku experienced that flooding, it would mean the site is far older than 600 AD. It would mean advanced stoneworking existed over 12,000 years ago. This contradicts everything we're taught about the development of civilization. According to accepted history, humans in 11,000 BC were hunter-gatherers. They hadn't developed agriculture. They hadn't built cities. They certainly hadn't mastered precision stone-cutting. But the evidence at Pumapunku suggests otherwise. Dr. Arthur Poznański, a German engineer, spent decades studying the site. His geological and astronomical analysis dated Pumapunku to 15,000 BC. His work was rejected by mainstream archaeology, not because his methods were flawed, but because his conclusions were unacceptable. The Bolivian government now restricts access to Pumapunku. Independent researchers are denied permission to conduct analysis. The precision blocks remain. Scattered testimony to a civilization that shouldn't exist. Number 6 brings us to an island that's been erased from maps. Nan Madol sits off the coast of Pohnpei in Micronesia, a city built entirely on artificial islands, constructed from basalt columns weighing up to 50 tons each. The complex covers 11 square miles. It contains nearly 100 artificial islands, connected by canals. The official story claims it was built between 1200 and 1600 AD by the Sadalur dynasty, using rafts and muscle power. Here's the problem. The basalt columns came from a quarry on the opposite side of the island. They were transported across open ocean, then lifted and precisely stacked to create walls 40 feet high. Modern engineers have examined the logistics. Moving 50-ton basalt columns across water requires specialized barges. Lifting them requires cranes or pulley systems with mechanical advantage. The Sadalur culture supposedly had outrigger canoes and coconut fiber rope. The mathematics don't support the official explanation. But there's something stranger about Nan Madol. The locals refuse to go there after dark. They claim the ruins are haunted, protected by spirits that kill intruders. Myths and superstition, according to academics. Except people who ignore the warnings tend to disappear. In 1907, the German governor of the island attempted to excavate Nan Madol. He died of unknown causes within days of starting. In 1933, a Japanese expedition vanished. Only one member returned. He refused to speak about what happened. Coincidence, claim the historians. But the pattern continues. Local guides who take tourists to Nan Madol won't stay after sunset. They report electronic equipment malfunctions. Compass needles spin randomly. Cameras fail. Modern researchers dismiss these accounts as local folklore. Yet the Australian National University conducted a survey of Nan Madol in 2016. Their ground-penetrating radar detected massive structures beneath the islands, underground chambers, connecting tunnels, geometric formations that appear artificial. The survey results were published briefly, then removed from public access. The research team declined to comment further. What's beneath Nan Madol that warrants such secrecy? The basalt columns above ground are impressive enough. But if there are artificial structures underground, it suggests engineering capabilities far beyond outrigger canoes. The Pohnpei government now restricts excavation at Nan Madol. The site is protected, but protected from what? Archaeological investigation? Or discovery of something that contradicts established history? The columns remain, stacked with precision, hiding secrets beneath the Pacific. Number 7 takes us to Turkey, to a site that rewrites human history. Göbekli Tepe was discovered in 1994. Initial dating placed it at 9000 BC. That's 6,000 years before Stonehenge, 4,000 years before the pyramids, and 5,000 years before humans supposedly invented agriculture. The site contains massive T-shaped pillars. Some weigh 20 tons. They're arranged in circles, decorated with intricate carvings of animals. The precision of the carvings suggests metal tools. But metal tools didn't exist in 9000 BC, according to mainstream archaeology. The official explanation claims hunter-gatherers built Göbekli Tepe using stone tools as some kind of ceremonial center. This explanation creates enormous problems. Hunter-gatherers are nomadic. They don't build permanent structures. They don't organize labor forces. They don't quarry and transport 20-ton stones. Yet Göbekli Tepe exists. Dr. Klaus Schmidt led the excavation until his death in 2014. He admitted the site contradicted everything we thought we knew about Neolithic culture. His conclusion: we've been wrong about the timeline of civilization. But here's what makes Göbekli Tepe truly bizarre. Somebody buried it. Deliberately. Carefully. The entire site was filled with thousands of tons of earth. Not debris from collapse. Intentionally placed fill. Why would a culture invest enormous effort to build Göbekli Tepe, then bury it? Some researchers suggest cataclysm. A disaster so severe that survivors buried the site as a time capsule. Geological evidence supports a major climate event around 9800 BC. Rapid temperature changes, flooding, ecological collapse. If Göbekli Tepe was buried to preserve it, that suggests the builders knew disaster was coming. It suggests planning, foresight, knowledge of astronomical or geological cycles. But we're told the builders were primitive hunter-gatherers. The contradiction is undeniable. Even stranger, ground-penetrating radar shows Göbekli Tepe is only 5% excavated. The visible structures are the smallest portion of the site. Beneath the excavated areas lie at least 20 additional circles, possibly more. The full complex could be massive, yet excavation has slowed to a crawl. Funding is limited, access is restricted, and Turkish authorities control all research. Why the hesitation? If Göbekli Tepe is just a ceremonial center built by hunter-gatherers, why not excavate it fully? Unless what's beneath the ground contradicts that explanation. Unless full excavation would reveal technology or knowledge that shouldn't exist in 9000 BC, the pillars remain visible. But 95% of the truth stays buried. Number 8 brings us back to Egypt, to precision that exceeds modern capability. The granite coffer inside the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid is cut from a single piece of red granite. It weighs approximately 3 tons. The walls are 5 inches thick. The interior is perfectly hollowed. Modern machinists have measured this box with laser instruments. The results are impossible to explain. The interior corners are exactly 90 degrees. The surface flatness varies by less than 1/10,000th of an inch. The wall thickness is uniform within 0.02 of an inch. This is precision ground machining. This requires diamond-tipped tools and computer-controlled equipment. The official explanation claims Egyptian workers hollowed the coffer using copper tools and abrasive sand. Christopher Dunn, the master machinist who analyzed the Serapeum boxes, also examined the king's chamber coffer. His analysis is unambiguous. This object was machined. It shows clear evidence of high-speed rotating tools. The interior corners display tool marks consistent with tubular drills. The sides show evidence of precision sawing. Dunn calculated the drill speed required to create the observed tool marks. The cutting tool would need to rotate at approximately 500 revolutions per minute, under significant pressure. Copper tools can't achieve this. They're too soft. They'd deform under the pressure required. Yet the evidence is undeniable. The tool marks are visible. The precision is measurable. Mainstream Egyptology ignores this evidence. When confronted with Dunn's analysis, the standard response is dismissal. They claim ancient workers had lost techniques that we don't understand. But they never explain what these techniques were or how they worked. It's a placeholder, an intellectual dead end designed to avoid uncomfortable conclusions. Because acknowledging the coffer was machined means acknowledging advanced technology in ancient Egypt. And that acknowledgement cascades through every other artifact, every perfectly drilled hole, every precision-cut surface. The entire narrative collapses. Here's what makes the coffer even stranger. It resonates. When struck, it produces a clear tone. The frequency is precise. The resonance lasts for several seconds. Acoustic engineers have analyzed this resonance. The coffer's dimensions create specific harmonic frequencies. Some researchers theorize it was designed as a resonance chamber, part of a larger acoustic device. This would explain the precision. Every dimension affects the resonance. Slight variations would change the frequency. But mainstream Egyptology insists it's a sarcophagus. Despite no body ever being found inside, despite no lid ever existing for it, the evidence suggests purpose beyond burial. But that purpose remains forbidden territory for academic research. The coffer sits in the king's chamber. Precision testimony to capabilities we don't possess. Number 9 takes us to Central America, to spheres that shouldn't be possible. The stone spheres of Costa Rica number in the hundreds. They range in size from a few inches to over 6 feet in diameter. Some weigh 16 tons. They're perfectly round. Not approximately round, perfectly spherical, within millimeters. Modern engineers have measured them extensively. The precision is inexplicable. Creating a perfect sphere requires mathematical knowledge and precision tools. You need to measure radius constantly, adjust surfaces uniformly, maintain exact curvature across the entire form. The official explanation claims the Decoded culture created these spheres between 600 and 1000 AD, using stone tools, by patiently grinding the surface until it became round. Geologist Dr. Samuel Lothrop studied the spheres extensively in the 1940s. He concluded they were man-made, but he couldn't explain how. Modern attempts to replicate the spheres have failed, even with power tools and measuring equipment. The stone used is granodiorite, extremely hard, extremely difficult to shape uniformly. Yet the ancient spheres are perfect. Here's where it gets interesting. The spheres were originally arranged in specific patterns, alignments, geometric formations. When archaeologists first discovered them, many were in precise lines. Others formed triangles. Some created complex astronomical alignments. Then property developers moved them, used them as lawn ornaments, destroyed the original patterns. The alignments are lost. Whatever purpose these spheres served, we can no longer determine it from their positions. But their precision remains measurable. Dr. Ivar Zapp, who studied the spheres for decades, proposed they served as astronomical markers, encoded knowledge about celestial movements. His theory was rejected, not because the evidence didn't support it, but because it implied mathematical sophistication beyond what the Decoded culture supposedly possessed. The Costa Rican government now protects the remaining spheres, but the original context is destroyed. The knowledge encoded in their placement is gone. Only the precision remains, testimony to capabilities that exceed our understanding. Some spheres show signs of damage, not from weathering, from deliberate defacement. When the Spanish conquered Central America, they encountered indigenous people who revered these spheres. The Spanish, viewing this as paganism, attempted to destroy them. They broke some, rolled others into rivers, buried others. The spheres that survived did so by chance, hidden in jungle, buried in sediment, forgotten. What knowledge was lost when the patterns were destroyed? We'll never know. The precision survives, but the purpose died with those who created them. Number 10 brings us to the ocean floor, to a structure that threatens everything we know. The Yonaguni Monument, sits off the coast of Japan. Discovered in 1987 by a dive tour operator. At first glance, it appears to be a natural rock formation, underwater terraces and right angles created by geological processes. That's the official explanation. Natural formation. Nothing more. Except geologists who've examined the site reject this explanation. Dr. Robert Schoch, the same geologist who studied the Great Pyramid, has dived at Yonaguni multiple times. His conclusion is carefully worded but clear. The structure shows evidence of human modification. The right angles are too precise, the terraces too uniform, the tool marks too obvious. But he stops short of calling it entirely man-made, because that creates an impossible problem. The Yonaguni Monument sits at depths that indicate it was above water during the last ice age, approximately 10,000 BC. If humans modified this structure, they did so before the development of civilization, before agriculture, before written language. That contradicts the entire timeline of human advancement. Dr. Masaaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus, has spent over 15 years studying Yonaguni. His conclusion is unambiguous. The structure is man-made. The evidence includes carved channels, post holes, drainage systems, and tool marks. He's identified what appear to be roads, stairways, carved animals, even writing. The Japanese academic establishment has rejected his findings, not because his evidence is flawed, but because his conclusions are unacceptable. If Yonaguni is man-made, it predates all known civilization. It suggests advanced culture existed over 12,000 years ago, a culture capable of monumental stone construction, capable of planning and executing complex architecture, a culture that was completely wiped out when sea levels rose, drowned beneath 300 feet of water. How much more evidence lies beneath the oceans? How many coastal cities were submerged when the Ice Age ended? Mainstream archaeology refuses to consider this question, because acknowledging advanced pre-flood civilization means rewriting history entirely. The Yonaguni Monument remains underwater, visited by divers, studied by independent researchers, ignored by establishment academia. The right angles don't lie. The terraces tell a story. But it's a story we're not supposed to believe, because believing it means accepting that human civilization is far older than we've been taught. That knowledge was lost, that advanced cultures rose and fell before recorded history began. The ocean keeps its secrets, but the stones remain, silent witnesses to a past we've forgotten. 10 structures, 10 impossibilities, 10 challenges to everything mainstream archaeology claims about our ancestors. The Great Pyramid's precision that modern engineers can't replicate. Sacsayhuaman's impossible stonework. The machined boxes at the Serapeum. Baalbek's unmovable trilithon. Puma Punku's aerospace-grade tolerances. Nan Madol's mysterious columns. Göbekli Tepe's buried complexity. The King's Chamber coffer's perfect machining. Costa Rica's spheres. Yonaguni's drowned terraces. The pattern is undeniable. When ancient structures demonstrate capabilities beyond accepted technology, the explanation never changes. Primitive tools, patient labor, trial and error. But the precision tells a different story. The mathematics reveal impossible logistics. The evidence contradicts the official narrative. These structures exist. They can be measured. They can be analyzed. And they all demonstrate knowledge that shouldn't exist in the ancient world. Why does mainstream archaeology refuse to acknowledge this? Because acknowledging advanced ancient technology means acknowledging lost knowledge. It means admitting human civilization might be far older than we've been taught. It means rewriting textbooks, revising timelines, accepting that our ancestors were more sophisticated than we've given them credit for. The evidence has been systematically dismissed. Researchers who question the established timeline face professional consequences. Independent analysis is restricted. Access to sites is controlled. This isn't coincidence. This is systematic suppression of evidence that contradicts accepted history. The stones don't lie. The precision speaks for itself. The engineering is undeniable. Modern construction can't replicate these achievements. With all our technology, with all our knowledge, with all our tools. Yet we're told ancient people accomplished this with copper chisels and wooden ramps. The question isn't whether these structures demonstrate advanced capability. The measurements prove they do. The question is, why acknowledging this truth threatens so many people? Perhaps because it forces us to reconsider everything, to question what we've been taught, to accept that human history is more complex than the simple progression we've been sold. The evidence exists. The structures remain. The precision can be verified. What you believe is yours to decide. But remember this: the stones have lasted thousands of years. They'll outlast the theories that try to diminish them. They'll outlast the explanations that don't add up. Truth endures. Evidence speaks. And the impossible achievements of our ancestors remain standing. Testimony to knowledge we've forgotten, capability we've lost, and a past far more advanced than we're comfortable admitting. The investigation continues. The questions remain. And the structures stand as permanent proof. Some truths can't be buried, no matter how hard they try.